Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rounding the Bases podcast. I'm Coach Tom Coons, along with Coach Chad Porter and Coach Zach Cart on a chilly December 8th. I know in Alabama here it's going to be 25 degrees tonight, so I can't imagine what you guys are going to be where you are. But I thought what we talk about tonight is kind of like 8 things. I was thinking about this today. 8 things that coaches kind of look for, or things that you have that helps you get recruited. And I'm just going to bing them out there and let you guys, put your ideas with it. Number 1, I put down that talent gets you noticed. Character will get you recruited. Coaches can fix certain mechanics once they get you, but they can't fix laziness, entitlement, or selfishness. They look for good teams, not just good players. Thoughts?
Coaches don't want problems. More than they already have. Coaches have a lot of problems. They have a lot on their plate. They want kids that want to be there. So I think that's real simple. Coaches don't want problems off the field, and that culture, guys.
It's their livelihood. They got to make sure they're set too.
Plus, who wants to deal with? There's no coach that I know that wants to deal with that.
Agreed.
There's coaches that, now listen, here's a reality check too. There's a lot of coaches that will tolerate it a little bit more if you can play. That's all there is to it. I mean, yep. We can say whatever we want, but there's some guys out there that'll give guys a little bit more of a leash if they can play. I hate to say that, but that's kind of that.
Right.
That's been the same. That's something that's been the same forever. That's not everybody, but
all right.
Yeah.
Number 2. Go ahead, Zach.
Yep. So there's a reason they ask for your GPA on all the recruiting questionnaires. Not only does it help dictate financial aid programs, but that's a little bit of an indicator of, if you can do your job or if they're going to have a problem once they get you on campus.
Well, they don't want you there just first semester and then they lose you.
Right.
Because fall ball, let's face it, if you're there for fall ball and you can't play spring, what good are you to that team?
Yeah.
But there's guys that'll listen. There's guys that'll take chances on academic problem guys because you can play the game a little bit.
Right.
I'm just telling you. I think kids get fed this reality, this stuff we're talking about, right? And then they go to a program and they do all the things right, and there's a dude hitting 345 that's barely eligible and has some issues and stays on the team, and the other kid doesn't get to play. It happens all the time. That's why people like us can help you get in the right culture.
Correct.
That's the reality. Like, coaches want to win.
Exactly right.
Coaches want to win, and some guys are going to give more guys like that more of a leash than others. And I think players have to understand that and have to find the right fit, to find a coach that's willing to, back up their words by their actions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's fact.
Good point. All right. Number 2. They don't want robots or mechanical things. They want competitors. They want kids who can compete in the box. They want kids who hunt pitches, kids who can handle pressure. They don't want somebody that goes just robotic all the time. True or false?
True. And it's getting harder and harder because we're not teaching the game as much, and we're teaching specialty mechanics. We're losing some of that competitiveness.
Right.
We really are, because in the other piece about the competitiveness, all this tournament stuff, right? What are you really playing for? What are you really playing for? I mean, what's really on the line on a Sunday afternoon tournament? What's really on the line in that championship game when
That's
you
right.
leave? You're not going to advance. And I'm not saying these tournaments are bad, though, is what's really on the line, right? And I think we've kind of lost a little bit of that competitiveness in there. So competing's important. And it's a misunderstood word. Just like love, being a competitor and competing is a misunderstood word.
Zach, anything to add?
No, I think Coach is spot on. I mean, that definitely a true statement. One of the things I mean, Coach and I got the opportunity to work a showcase this past weekend. You know, one thing that's becoming overwhelmingly important is the ability to communicate. And we watched many players that can't communicate with other coaches. They have questions or, simple directions. And so, that plays into it too. I mean, that's a little bit of the competitive spirit, I think.
And that kind of, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I was going to say that kind of ties into number 3 here. When you're talking your showcases and stuff, coaches don't trust rankings as much as players think. Rankings will get them to the ballpark, but they all say the same thing. And I know I said it too. I need to see a kid with my own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your showcase right there,
Showcases like yesterday, get your foot in the door. You show some arm strength, you show some velocity, you show some foot speed, you show some good fielding actions. That gets you on a list. I want to take a look at this guy, right? But at the end of the day, you still have to play the game. And coaches are looking for guys, right, that are at their best when it's really, really bad. I want the guy that's not scared, that's at his best. When it's really, really, it's easy to look at a kid when it's really, really good. And that's hitting a BP fastball. That's, playing in a really non-competitive situation. Coaches want guys that are really, really good when what hits the fan.
Right.
That's the mark of somebody that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about this a few podcasts ago, which takes to 4 and 5 here. Are you reliable? What's your upside? If a coach offers you a scholarship or offers you a spot on their roster, whether it's financial aid or anything else, they're betting their job on you. And that's what they don't want. They want a guy that's going to show up, or a girl that's going to show up every day and be consistent. And then once you're there, how do you handle situations mentally? Remember, we talked about this before. The mental game is you strike out. How do you handle your next at bat? Do you collapse mentally? Do you go up there and attack it? Coaches watch that more than your exit velocity sometimes. They want to see, look, you struck out this time, but you may get 3 more hits in the rest of the game and win it for us. Or you go 0 for 4 because you're still thinking about that error you made in the field or something like that. Comments?
Exit velocity tells me nothing about the ability to compete. Hit a 2-2 slider that's moving, right? What's exit velocity tell me about a guy other than he's got the bat speed to hit it. But what's going to happen when the ball's running under his hands at, a speed or a movement that he hasn't seen, right? So what are you going to do in the box? What are you going to do once it hits the fan? Because it's gonna. How are you going to stay in the moment and slow the game down, right? And play the next pitch, okay? And those guys are special that can do that. There's guys that are special with 105 exit velos too, but that doesn't. Just listen. I went to an independent tryout when I was 23 years old. And I was with these guys that just got released from spring training, and all these guys are running these 60s. And Jamie Keefe, the manager, said, "That was impressive. Doesn't tell me anything about how you could play." Think about it.
That's right.
Because in between the lines, nobody cares about any of that stuff. In between the lines, it's me versus you. But you've got to win me versus me before I win me versus you. And
Right.
That's what you're talking about. Okay? Winning me versus me. Okay? Because in that moment in the box, nobody cares. Nobody cares in the box. Nobody cares when you strike out. Mom's not going to bring you a Gatorade. Listen, we're going to get together and sing Kumbaya. It's who's going to dust themselves off and go to the next pitch, right? And we've lost a lot of that in our game today. So, with that being said, that's what the coaches are looking for.
Well, and Zach, you being a mental coach, or certified in that area, let's face it, offensively, you're gonna fail 7 to 8 times out of every 10 at bats. And I've never heard of anybody going a whole season that's actually made a certain number of plays that has not made an error somewhere. So it brings that mental part in, like the bounce back. And Zach, you can talk on that because that's your area. That you're with it.
Absolutely. And so in really it's about the process, right? In the process to get yourself in the right position every time. A lot of younger players overlook it. Yesterday, I mentioned Coach Porter and I had the opportunity to work a showcase. There were a bunch of times where Coach Porter was throwing BP and there was a player that would swing and miss or not catch a barrel, and their next pitch was not good. So they didn't take the time and take the opportunity to reset their mind and get back in line with the process that they know that produces results for them. I know a lot of times we are very outcome driven, result driven. But the more these younger players can become obsessed with that process and what it takes to continually get better, the better off they're going to be. And a lot of coaches are starting to recognize that, which, makes that, that saying, you have a mind like a goldfish, very short-term memory.
Exactly.
That makes that more advantageous for a coach to recruit a player like that.
Here's one you're going to love. Next one. Coaches recruit parents too. Are your parents confrontation dramatic? Constantly complaining, constantly emailing. Think about that as a coach. Does that hinder that recruiting of that athlete?
No doubt about it.
Coach Porter loves parents.
Listen. For 20 whatever years, I have a rule. I don't talk to parents about playing time or baseball, how I run the club. So that's not changing. But absolutely, no coach wants bad from parents because misery loves company. Okay. And bad parents are like bad teammates.
Yep.
And so, absolutely, you're recruiting a family. They have to be a good fit. And they have to be vetted, and they have to know their role in this entire thing. And that role's got to be communicated. Hey, here's your job. Your kid's got a job. I've got a job. His teammates have a job. Our administration has a job. You have a job, right? And here's your job. I'm a firm believer in that. And so, to answer your question, emphatically, yes. We recruit parents.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. Next
I
one.
always tell our parents, hold on, when
Go
I
ahead.
can go to your place of work and act like I know something about your job, you can come to mine and start talking to my team about my job, because baseball is a game that very few understand, including myself. But everybody, you know, because they played Little League or JV baseball, it's just baseball. They know how it works. And that drives me nuts. So you hit a button there. And I have had some outstanding parents that I've coached their kids. One of them is to my right or left, however you're oriented. Because
Well, I know you didn't coach me.
Well, I'm sure I'd love your parents too.
Oh, yeah, you would have, but I'm just a tad bit older than you. I don't think you would have had me as a player. Next one. Coaches don't care if you think you can play there. They only care if you can help them to win. Because guess what, guys and girls out there? This is a business with real consequences for coaches and their careers. So it's what can you do to help them, not what you think you can do.
I think yeah. I think there's a little.
Well, here's the deal. If I look at a kid and don't think they can help us be successful, why are we recruiting them?
Yeah, but you know how that plays out sometimes too. So a lot of kids, everybody wants to go baseball. The Vandy's, the Tennessees, the Arkansas, the LSU's. You know, when in fact they're probably down here at the, you know, whatevers. Same with softball. I want to play for Oklahoma. I want to play for Nebraska, Alabama, Florida State. You think you can play there, but in reality, what can you do to help that coach? Because it's a business. It is a business. And it's even more of a business now with NIL and transfer portal and everything else. That's why teams have general managers.
Kids lose track of the fact that there's 1,000 kids out there just like them.
Correct.
I mean, literally. And we talked about this a couple other podcasts ago. Let's just say there's a kid from this area, right? Underpopulated area. Like, you don't think there's 50 of you in, a 20-mile radius in Orlando, Florida?
Yeah. What
separates you, right? What in the coach's mind is going to separate you? I mean, that's a really good point and true. I mean, it's what you're saying, Coach Coons. That's absolutely true.
Right. And the last point I got is, players who grow the most in college, that were recruited and grow the most, they may not be the kids who were already polished, but they were the kids who were coachable, understanding, curious, mentally tough, disciplined, and hungry to improve. And
growth mindset.
What's that?
Growth mindset.
Yeah, and when I'm going to take a football analogy, and believe me, I'm not a big football. I watch football, But this kid, the quarterback at Mississippi, Chambliss, his last name, was a backup. Played at Stockton, I believe, which is a smaller school, D1. Now he's a star at Miss because he was coachable, curious, he's mentally tough, disciplined, and he was hungry to improve. If he was already polished, Mississippi might have recruited him in the beginning. But he needed that little bit. What's your thought on that, Zach? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the curiosity, I mean, that ties into the growth mindset piece. And there's a lot of humility that goes in with that. And I think players that have a good understanding of what their environment is, the situation that they're going into, which Coach Porter talks about all the time, finding the right fit in the right school, in the right environment, and the players and how they understand that situation in that environment. I think that's going to be really important, Coach, to kind of your point. That will allow them to have the most growth from point A to point C. And there's not necessarily a straight line through B, but that will give them the ability to have a higher ceiling versus what they originally thought. But without those ground level points, that they're not going to be able to achieve that. The other point that I'll make is once you do find that place, you definitely have to want to show that you want to go there. And not necessarily show, but you have to want to be there. There's a case that's on the top of my mind where I was helping a young fella, through the recruiting process, and he took a visit, and maybe he didn't show the best body language at the time that he wanted to be on campus, but it was a big school, it was a big situation, and the feedback back to him was that maybe they thought that he didn't want to be there, and so they don't want guys that don't want to be there. So that kind of plays into your point, Coach.
And I think if you tie all this in together, what we've talked about tonight, and you guys have all been coaches as well as I, all coaches kind of look for that same thing. They want a kid that's a competitor. They want a kid that's a good teammate. They want a kid that's willing to learn. They want a grinder, like Coach Porter said. You want a kid that's going to go out there and go, and they want kids that are winners. And I think if you do that, or you can instill that mentally in you, recruiting really takes care of itself. Then you just come to us and we find you the schools. I can remember having a team. I had a couple very good players and a bunch of other kids that were role models or role players, but you could ask them to, the old saying, you could ask them to run through a wall and they would just do it without questioning why. Mm-hmm. They would do that. We won a championship because they had they were competitors. They were great teammates. They didn't care who got the credit. They wanted the team to get the credit. They were all learners. They were grinders. They were winners. And now they're the same way in life now that they've had their own families. They're winners. You guys are too agreeable tonight. You're just shaking your
Hey, look, in life, people talk to you about surrounding yourself with good people and all that good stuff. And it's no different in building a team in a culture. And if you want to be successful in the field, you have to surround yourself with winners. Coaches recruit guys from let's take a look at Vandy's roster. How many of those guys you think came from losing programs? Now,
Nope.
if you're a coach, coaches want winners. That's on and off the field, right? So if you're going to have a elite culture off the field, right? you have to bring in kids with that winning growth mindset, right? They win in their academics, they win in their social lives, they win, blah blah blah. And then on the field, you really think a coach is going to try to put 9 guys on the field that have lost a lot and expect for them to win? Yeah, it's just not going to happen. So coaches want to surround themselves and the other people in their program with winners, right? I really believe that. Woody Hunt, Cumberland University, ABCA Hall of Famer. You want to win? Recruit winners. There you go.
That's right.
Recruit winning players. You want to get guys on the field to compete and all that stuff. Recruit guys that win and win a lot. You can recruit a couple of guys from losing programs. I get it. Every program's got a situation, but why? Coaches look at that too, and that's something that we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about a lot that coaches are looking at what your program did. What are you winning? Is your coach developing kids? And how do you know that? By sending off guys to colleges. Are there other guys in the program that are going to colleges? And like I said, there's always that wild card that you can pull in from a program. I can't think this kid's a sleeper, right? And maybe just wasn't in a great environment. Maybe blah, 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 blah. Was at a really small school. But the bottom line is coaches are going to recruit winners. And like I said, go back to that analogy. Do you really think Tim Corbin is putting together a roster of 30 whatever guys from losing programs? Absolutely not. Because winners find ways to win. And as Augie Garrido said, the world treats winners different than losers. And that is a fact. That is a fact off the field and on the field. The world treats winners different than losers. So.
Very true. Zach, closing?
I agree with everything that Coach said there. I know that's cliche, but at the same time, I mean, one particular equation that I like to use with some of the younger guys, and it goes back to mindset. And so it really dictates, working through the process, and it's E plus R equals O, right? Event plus response equals the outcome. And so the one thing that I try to help our players understand is we rarely control the event, but we can control our response to that event. And that helps dictate our outcome. And so all points, combined with everything we talked about tonight, I think that's a really important one when we talk about process.
And I think, the things we talked about tonight, we're all talking about what coaches look for. We're all coaches here. We can help you attain those levels because we know what coaches are looking for what players, and I think that makes us a valuable commodity for someone who's out there looking. I mean, you see every day on Twitter, uncommitted. Fill out a questionnaire with us. We'll give you a free evaluation. $0. Doesn't cost you a dime.
Yep.
If you like what you want to work with us, minimal dollars. We're here to help. We're not here to get rich here. We're here to help people. Again, we are doing this because we love the game. Baseball, softball, it doesn't matter. We have the databases ready. We have the coaches' phone numbers ready. We can do this stuff. And Coach Porter, why don't you next Sunday for our podcast, Coach, it came up with an unbelievable idea because it is that time of year to give the Christmas holiday season. We're going to have a surprise giveaway. Would that be fair, Coach?
Sure.
You're gonna announce it because you're like, Santa Porter. So we'll have you do it. But watch our podcast next Sunday. It's going to be an awesome giveaway for the holiday season. And I guess you'll have to tune in.
Yeah, you'll have to tune in, and we'll give you some more information. But we've
Exactly.
got a good press.
But take a chance. You know, we're here.
It'll have to be approved. Yeah.
Yeah. We're here. We're helping kids every day. Like I say, Coach Porter and Coach Cart just went to a showcase. A ton more kids to reach out with, and there's nothing to lose. And there's not many opportunities in life now where you can say there's nothing to lose. It's totally free. So take a chance. Nobody's going to hound you. Nobody's going to bother you, your parents, anything. So aheadindaccountrecruiting.com. You have our emails. There's a questionnaire on there. You fill it out. It comes right to our email box. We'll either text you or call you to get a video, or if you include it, we'll do it, and then we'll get back with you, either a phone call or a text, to set up a time to do a call just like this and evaluate and go over and talk to you about it and see where you're at. But we appreciate you tuning in. We will see you next Sunday, which is what, the 14th, I believe?
Yes,
14th.
14th, 8 o'clock Eastern time.
8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central time. Tune in for the free holiday gift, and stay warm the rest of the week. But we appreciate you watching.